Greetings, family. Peace and love to you and yours. This is Guru. Thanks for visiting my channel. This vlog today is about what we're missing. And what we're missing is our birth of a nation moment. Let's go to the story. So, family, the film should be inspiring debate about oppression and violence, not the director's controversial past. The film, after months of hype and vilification, we can all see The Birth of a Nation, a story based on Nat Turner Rebellion of 1831. Yet, amid complaints about the film and the controversy surrounding Nate Parker, its writer, star, and director, we have never gotten to the real questions raised by the film and indeed the episode itself. The movie should be inspiring debate about the slave rebellion and the violence used to put it down. It raises critical questions such as, what are the legitimate options for enslaved people to challenge the peculiar institution? Was Turner a religious fanatic, a madman, a cold-blooded murderer, or a heroic freedom fighter? What is the legacy of both slavery and the black revolutionary thought? Well, family, I'm going to pause for a moment to address some of these issues in my opinion here. So, there indeed the question, and it's an important question, is what are the legitimate options for enslaved people to challenge the peculiar institution? Yeah, what are the legitimate options? I think Malcolm X said it best when he said, by any means necessary. And that's true to this. Black people, I don't think they used their numbers or their brain power, their thought processes, or their own thoughts and ideas. I don't think that they used them wisely to overcome oppression. To this day, we don't. As a matter of fact, we have so much power, but we don't use our power to overcome our drawbacks, our setbacks, and our obstacles. And so, family, today, right to this day, we have the issue we can see even on YouTube, even on social media, where we have some blacks who think a certain way. And I'm gonna give you an example. You have T.I. I love that brother. He's a smart, intelligent brother. He's a father, a brother, I'm sure a son, but he's smart and intelligent. But then you have Lil Wayne, somebody who is talented. He knows how to make records, hit records. At times he just mumbles with his words and whatnot, but we find it, what's the word I want to say, entertaining. So he gets paid millions of dollars. I'm not going to cut Lil Wayne short of anything of his talents because I wish I was in his position to have that kind of talent. But see, my message would be different. That's all. But anyways, back to the point is that we have different types of black folks. And we know this. And we saw that played out even in Birth of a Nation. I saw the movie. And the part that really irked and agitated me was when the slave rebellion was going on and Nat Turner was leading the rebellion march forward. They would have succeeded. But remember, there's always the certain black folks within our own group that look just like us who are brainwashed. They're brainwashed to not think like a black person would and instead think like their oppressor. And so you have some black people who, looking at the oppressor, maybe even back then, wish they were white. And so that's the way they acted. And so getting to my point is when I was watching the movie, the part that irritated me and just really got to me the worst. And I made it known too in the theater. And you have to understand, me and my wife were the only black people in the theater at the time of a group of other people that were there. There were some Hispanics there and there were white people there, but we were the only black couple there. We're the only black people, I'll say, in the theater at the time. And when that part happened, I think I stood out the most because I stood up in my seat and I immediately looked at my wife with just disgust, almost to say like, "See," but I caught myself. I had to restrain myself in the seat because I made it so obvious. And that was the part where you saw that little coon sitting there on this other side of the fence crying like a little bee after he done told Massa what the plan was. And because of that traitor, the black person who snitched on his own kind, who told on his own people, changed the events of history. And black people have been doing that ever since. We have some black people here in America who have been doing it ever since. And I'm going to even go as far to say that worked even with J. Edgar Hoover when they were doing COINTELPRO and they were doing the FBI diaries on black folk. When they were doing all of that, they had black folk working for them, infiltrating and doing their dirty work for $1. And in the end, because we don't know who those people are, I wouldn't doubt if they even killed them. Black folk, you guys, sometimes we're some of the dumbest people we can be. But yet we're not. And I know we're not. We have been brainwashed on these shores. And we've been so brainwashed that we're believing it ourselves. And that's a major problem. But I digress. Let me get back to this story. This story is about what we're missing discussing Birth of a Nation. So family, with the Black Lives Matter movement in full force, one could argue that the timing of this film is divine. However, its intended purpose is lost in a storm of distractions, including Parker's 1999 acquittal on a rape charge. Family, we all know that those distractions have come primarily from white media and black feminists and other feminists, I'll say, but black feminists leading the charges. I've said it before, but I've never done my review on Birth of a Nation. But as I'm doing this vlog here, I'm going to be leaving some of my opinions, so you can say that this is partial of my review of the Birth of a Nation. Nonetheless, I found it pretty disgusting that every time I turned on Roland Martin or some other channel discussing the film Birth of a Nation, before it even came out, they were talking so much about Nate Parker. Yet he was acquitted by an all-white jury. And yet he had to constantly answer to that because they didn't want to talk about the film. No, it was too powerful for them to do that. And that was a planned strategy. You have to understand that. So here it was that we're constantly talking about it, but that's because it was a planned strategy. And black folk, you fell right into the discussion. Instead of forcing the discussion back onto Nat Turner, not Nate Parker, but Nat Turner, and the rebellion of 1831. See, we allowed them once again to control the discussion, and we fell right hook, line, and sinker all in it. It was really disgusting. I did a piece on the Birth of a Nation about a month or so ago, or a couple months ago, when I first started getting into doing these videos, getting more serious into it. But even then, I just barely touched on the subject. Well, now I've seen the film, and so yeah, overall, I love the film. I've read the book though. I've read a couple books on the story of Nat Turner and the rebellion. I've read the Confessions of Nat Turner. So I've read the books too, and seeing the movie, well, of course, the movie doesn't do the book justice at all. Of course, it can't. But even when they showed in the film the rebellion, I was really, how can I put it, not so impressed. Not so impressed because of all the other films I've seen where white people have done slave movies or whatnot. They get it downright good when it shows black oppression and death and whatnot. But the story of Nat Turner and the rebellion, I noticed that they showed a lot of the adults getting killed, but like the kids and stuff like that, that they actually did kill throughout the book. When you read the book, they didn't show that in the movies because they were too scared to show that. So they'll show Black Death all day long, but we were so scared we couldn't even show the white death of white little children and stuff like that that actually happened in real life. So this movie was lacking in some areas, but you know what? I give Nate Parker, I give him hands down. He gets a salute. My hat's off to that brother because he was the one bold enough to come forward with this story. But it just got overshadowed by these black feminists who got out there loud and obnoxious. And they used the movie Birth of a Nation and Nate Parker as their grinding block, as their platform. And it was so wrong. They did exactly what white media did. They fell right into it, but they wanted to sit in the front freaking seat. They wanted to sit in the front seat. But I'm getting back to this article. I'm sorry. Let's get back to this article. Oh, sorry about that, family. So anyways, family, it is the job of historians to understand why something happened and of artists to create representations. When in sync, they can inspire rich discussions. What the movie does well is present a collage of many stories that are grounded in historical reality. Film is art, and its responsibility is to interpret and express, not to chronicle strict, accurate historical narratives. That's a good point. Because sometimes people hold films, right now, this is my own opinion here, but people sometimes hold films like this to a historical candle, and you just can't do that. This is Nate Parker's story, not yours, or not somebody else's, or not some history teacher's lesson. This is Nate Parker's story. Remember that, family. I know you understand that. Okay, so anyways, Nat Turner was lynched for fighting for freedom and standing up against the status quo. And black folks, we know that, don't we? The Birth of a Nation has brought Nat Turner alive at a time when we desperately need historical perspectives and dialogues about race and violence. Let us not miss this opportunity. Wow, this piece right here is really good, family. It's almost done. The Birth of a Nation is a re-imaging of one of America's most controversial stories. It humanizes a man whom many deem a villainous murderer, but who is seen by some as a freedom fighter. It raises questions about race, civil rights, and historical hypocrisies. Yet the conversations have all but and ignored the essence of this film, and the positive reverberations it has already caused have gone unmentioned. It showcases the unmistakable historical connections between black revolutionaries, Black Lives Matter, and the legacy of slavery in our nation. The film, the timing of this film is impeccable, and we must not let it pass by simply denouncing Turner's tactics. We must ask ourselves about his humanity and his larger legacy. Who is Nat Turner? Okay, so Kelly Fanto Dietz, a research associate at the James River Institute for Archaeology and a writer on slavery in America, is directing the excavation of the Turner Rebels burial site and the reparations of Nat Turner's remains in conjunction with National Geographic and the Smithsonian. Alfred Brophy, a law professor at the University of North Carolina, is the author, most recently, of University Court and Slave, Pro-Slavery Thought in Southern Colleges and Courts and the Coming of Civil War. So family, that's the extent of this article. It's now a little over 15 minutes. I usually don't do my vlogs very long. This piece is an important piece. And again, it highlights what we're missing. We're missing our moment of taking this movie and discussing some of its important aspects of it. One aspect of that I brought out earlier was the betrayal of black people on black people. The traitors who are black against other blacks. That's one issue that's huge. The second is the religious aspect of it. Nat Turner was a prophetic man. He was a man of God. He was a man of the Word. He studied the Bible. He studied the scriptures. He knew its meaning. And those pastors today would be sitting down and shutting their mouths, and they would have their tails between their legs if Nat Turner was alive today, because he would shame them all. Nat Turner was a real prophet. He was a real preacher. And he used the word to help his people. So again, we have the religious aspect of it. And then we have the response. The response that Nat Turner came up with to free his people. And that was to fight fire with fire. And so he planned with other black people with like minds to free his people, and that's what they set out to do. And that was by any means necessary. The same approach that Malcolm X came up with back in the 1960s. They say that history repeats itself, does it not? So we have the traitors of the black race, and then we have the religious aspect and the use of the Bible and the word. Christianity and how it controlled black people. And right to this day, it still does. You start talking about Christianity to a black person, they'll run so fast from you. They'll look at you as if you were Satan yourself. I had a discussion with a young brother in KFC of all places, right? And he tried to talk to me about the Bible. Well, I said a few things to him that made him think. And it really made him think, because he could not leave that restaurant without asking me more questions, because he was curious. Well, I'm not going to tell you the whole story. Nonetheless, Christians and Christianity, it has been used to control us. That's a discussion that we can discuss taken from this movie. You notice how Nat Turner, you notice how he turned the word of God around to help his people liberate themselves. You notice that he used those same scriptures, the one that contradict what slave master loved for him to preach. And so for those of you who haven't seen the film, I'm not going to give away too much. But that's an aspect of the movie that we have to discuss. Yes, religion too. And then, like I said, the response. Because that was his way. And it would have succeeded. But you had the traitor of the black race. And so, family, our history would have turned out so much different if we didn't have black people who were actually brainwashed. And right to this day, we're still dealing with them. And that's why we're still in the situation we have today, because they're buck dancing, coon dancing, pickaninnies, and all the rest. So family, I'm going to end now. I've just topped 20 minutes. I'm going to end this vlog. I hope you like it. If you do, please share it. And if you haven't subscribed already, I'd appreciate it if you did. This is Guru. Peace and love to you and yours. Until next time, I'm out.